Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another review. For this one we are going to do yet another Japanese sake, and as I've told you with these reviews, I am by no means an expert in Japanese sake, but it's just a little bit of a sidearm of the channel that I really enjoy doing. So for this one we are going to head to Niigata Prefecture for the first time, and we're actually visiting one of the newer sake breweries here in Japan. So for this one we are going to the Hakkaisan Shuzo, which literally means the Hakkai Mountain Brewery, and we're having a taste of their Echigo de sourou, which comes in at 19% ABV, and this one is described as a seishu. And again, this is another type of sake that I hadn't encountered before. So a seishu is apparently just, seishu is basically a synonym for the English word sake, and what it means is essentially clear. So basically this is a filtered sake. It's the opposite of the Nagamori unfiltered sakes that you've seen me review before. So looking forward to this one. My first review from these guys. They also produce craft beer as well, the Raidian beer brand, so depending on when I actually decide to publish this video, you may well have seen a review of one of those beers before this video appears. So yeah, same company actually, which is quite cool. But yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Hakkaisan Shuzo. Very first time I'm trying one of their products, like I said. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer, whiskey, sakes and things like that based on country, city, state, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the different playlists of things. What I'll probably do with the sake reviews once I get enough of them is start making prefecture lists and having the sakes from different prefectures in playlists. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers, whiskies, sakes and things like that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about the Hakkaisan Brewery then. So as I mentioned to you earlier, the Hakkaisan Brewery is actually one of the newer sake breweries here in Japan. It was founded back in 1922, whereas most of the other ones do tend to be have been founded around the kind of Meiji Restoration. But this brewery can be found at the foot of Mount Hakkai in Niigata Prefecture in Japan, hence the name Hakkaisan. Basically in Japan, when they have their mountains, they call them, like if it's Mount Hakkai, it's called Hakkaisan, and I think this is a reference back to the old days of Shinto, where it's all about respecting nature and taking wisdom from the ancestors and stuff. So they do like to kind of personify their mountains here. But this area where this brewery is located is part of Uonuma City, which is known for its snowfalls, and it's also a region that's very well versed in sake production. From what I understand, Uonuma is a little bit like Bamberg in Germany in terms of basically it's the sake equivalent of Bamberg in Germany. Niigata Prefecture, I guess, is the equivalent of Franconia, something like that. Very well versed in their sake production there. But the current CEO of this company is Jiro Nagumo, and I think this is yet another one of these companies that is kind of passed down the family line. There wasn't too much on the actual kind of history of the brewery. The stuff on the website was more talking about the actual brewing process and things like that, which was quite interesting. But this brewery use a slow fermentation at low temperatures to produce all of their sakes. Their spring water comes from Raidian and this is in all of their sakes, of course, and this is brought to the factory by a specially built pipeline that was built a number of years ago. The two types of rice that they use in their brewing are called Goyaku Mangoku, if I'm pronouncing this correctly, and also Yamada Nishiki rice as well, which is very carefully selected apparently, but they brew in very small batches, and they only use about 3 tons of rice as a maximum per tank. And they do say that one of their kind of company philosophies is to produce sake that's as good a quality as you like, but as for as kind of decent a price, I guess you could say. They see that as a main challenge, to make sure that sake is available to you know, the average Joe on the street. But these guys also produce shochu, and they sell beer as well under the name Hakkaisan beer, and also the Raidian craft beers that I was talking about earlier as well. So yeah, very interesting company from a very prominent sake region here in Japan. My first sake review and my first taste of a sake, I believe, from Niigata Prefecture. So yeah, with this one, as I mentioned earlier, you know, if you want to learn a little bit more about the brewery and the sake brewing process and stuff like that, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. If they've got a Facebook and an Instagram and stuff like that, I'll also post post that in the description below too. But as I mentioned earlier, this one is a 19% seishu, sold only from October to March. This particular one is a seasonal sake, and seishu literally means clear sake. It's the opposite of the Nigoris, and apparently this the word seishu is it's a synonym for the English word sake, and the Japanese tax law defines these as basically something that is fermented using water and rice, and then it's filtered or strained, if you like. So yeah, with this one, let's get it out and we will get on with the tasting then. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork then before we open it up. There you can see, very, very nicely presented. There's also a little top label on this one, which is quite nice too, and also it has the same symbol on the bottle cap as well. So yeah, let's get out. You can see this one's been sweating a little bit. When I was filming this review, I had a few issues with the camera. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting then. Oh, and you can see this one actually has one of these little cork stoppers, which you sometimes find on the sake. So let's get it out and we will get on with the tasting then. If I can actually open this up. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that's cool actually. This is the first time I've seen that on one of my sake reviews, and I'll tell you straight away, when you open this sake up, you can just smell how sweet it actually is. So yeah, as you can see, this one is absolutely crystal clear. It looks very, very nice. But yeah, as I always say in these videos, the things that the experts say that you should rate sake on is floral qualities, fruit, earthiness, sweetness, dryness, acidity, impact, and also the tail. So we'll talk about all of these things with this sake in the review. You know, I do have a good palate from doing the beers and the whiskies and stuff like this, but I am still kind of refining it a little bit more to deal with the sakes. I've only filmed about 10 or so sake reviews for you so far, but hopefully that is a number that is going to increase in the future. But yeah, as you can see with this one is absolutely crystal clear. I'd say that it has a little tint of a slightly bluish colour to it actually. I would say, yeah, this one, it's a little bit blue and a little bit, maybe very slightly kind of yellowish towards the top, but yeah, it does have a little tinge of blue to it. And a lot of these different sakes can have little different kind of colours to them as well, because of the different rice grains, and you know, the rice is affected by the soil and the waters and all of these kind of things in the different regions. But yeah, I would say a little touch kind of greeny and yellow with this one. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma with this and just see how we get on. Ooh. Now that one smells very nice. To me, this comes across as really quite sweet actually. There is a little bit of earthiness in there, and I can pick up, there's a little bit of there's a little touch of a slightly grassy floral kind of thing to it. But I would say mainly this one is quite sweet, but I'm picking up, I think there might be a little tiny touch of acidity to this one when you take it in, so I'm very curious to see about that. But yeah, first impression, when you go up to it at about this distance, you've got a little bit of earthiness in there, I think. But then when you move further in, you can smell there's a little touch of acidity in there. Definitely some kind of floral, grassy type freshness to this one too. And it's also quite sweet and fruity. You're getting a lot of sweetness out of the rice in this one. And I think, in terms of the fruitiness of this, I can't really think. I mean, a lot of these sakes, I always say this, they usually remind me of like apricots and things like that. Some of them I've actually tasted a little bit like pineapple as well. There's definitely a little bit of a slightly tropical, fruity note to this one. It's not grapefruit or anything like that, but it could be a little bit of a kind of apricot-y, sort of maybe very slightly mango actually note that's coming out of this one. But to me, this sake, in terms of its aroma, it's coming across as having a nice little touch of earthiness and grassiness to it, but that's quite minimal. I think there'll be a little bit of acidity to this one in the flavour, but it's also quite sweet and a little bit fruity as well. So I think usually these sakes are quite close in their flavour profile to what you pick up in the aroma. So I'm very, very curious to try this one, but as I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the sake before you get stuck into it. So let's have a taste of this one then. So this one is the Echigo de sourou, a seasonal sake produced only between October and March from the brain's not working, from the Hakkaisan Shuzo in Uonuma City in Niigata in Japan. My first sake review from Niigata. Let's get stuck in. Slanja Skull Kampai. yeah, this one's really, really nice. You can definitely taste in this a little bit. You can feel it compared to some of the other ones, that this one is a little bit more, that has a little bit more alcohol in it. Normally, the percentage for most sakes that I've come across, it's somewhere usually between about 14 and 16%, you know, it's usually within that range. This one is 19%, of course, so it is a little bit heavier in terms of its alcohol content, and you do feel that a little bit in here, but the sake at the same time, it does really retain its smoothness, and my impression that this one was actually going to be quite sweet, I think holds up. It's nowhere near as sweet as one of the other ones that I've reviewed recently, the Kaiju Show, if I'm remembering the name of that sake correctly. But it does have, in terms of, you know, a kind of regular ginjo, daiginjo sort of type sake, this one is quite sweet in that regard. I like how this one's kind of coming across. Yeah, I would say this one to me has a little... The acidity in this one's interesting because it's not coming in... We should talk about the impact right enough. The impact on this one, I would say, is quite smooth and quite oily. It comes in and it just, the whole flavour just kind of rolls across the palate, but I'm finding, I think a little bit later in the taste, this one's becoming... It does have a little bit more acidity to it. I can feel the kind of, if I go inside from the front edge of my tongue, I can feel it just wetting up a little bit the further into the aftertaste I go, and it's almost like it is just it is very, very slightly acidic, but there's also some nice earthy flavours, I think, coming out of this one. A little bit later on too. The one thing I should say as well, if you're watching this, most of my subscribers rather, will be craft beer drinkers. The earthiness that you get in the sakes is quite a bit different from the earthiness you'll get in like stouts and porters and things like that. It really is a lot more of a sweeter earthiness and things. It's quite subtle in these sakes. But yeah, this is really nice. I'll say straight away, big thumbs up to Hakkaisan Shuzo. So let's try and pick out some of these flavours a little bit more then. So yeah, as I was saying with this one then, that ricey sweetness, it just blankets the whole of your tongue, and it becomes a little touch more earthy. I think there is a little bit of an earthiness to this one. It comes out a little bit more towards the back of the tongue, I think. The earthiness is towards the back of your palate. And on the edges of your tongue as well, I think that's at the very edges of your palate. That's where the more floral notes are coming out. This one, to me, it does come across as almost a little touch spicy and floral. But there is a little element of a lighter grassiness around the front edge of the tongue, but for me it is more of a floral quality to this one rather than a kind of grassy note, but it's got a lovely sweetness to it. I'm finding this sake, it does, you take the first sip of it, as I say, you take the first sip of it, it's sweet at the front of the palate, then it smooths out a little bit, it becomes a bit more earthy towards the back of the tongue, and then it just again starts to sweeten up a little bit, and I think there's a little touch of acidity towards the front of the palate there. The tail on this one, again, it's definitely, some of the sweetness there is coming out, but then the earthy notes, I think, start to push their way out a little bit more as well, and some of that floral quality is just kind of lingering there too. There's a whole host of flavoured things going on in this one, but it works, you know, very, very nicely. This is quite different in terms of its flavour profile compared to some of the other sakes that I've had before. I would say the other thing we should talk about is dryness and stuff like that. I find this sake to be a little bit drier than some of the other ones that I've had. You can feel that particularly on the edge of the palate with some of these kind of floral notes. For me, the sort of floral character in this one is the element that's drying it a little bit. And as I said, there is a little touch of acidity to this one. The other thing we've not talked about yet is the fruitiness out of this one. So yeah, for me, I don't know if it is, it's not quite mangoes or anything like that. Again, I think it's this sort of apricot-y quality. There is a little touch of, it's not, the fruity notes that you get in sake are very, very subtle. It's not like these different hops you get in craft beers. where they all have a very, very distinctive kind of fruity flavour, if you like. This one to me has just got a nice little bit. It's kind of like a sort of grassy sweetness, but at the same time it's got a little bit of an almost apricot-y or apricot-y yogurt kind of flavour to it. This actually, the fruitiness in this one actually reminds me of the sort of flavours that you get from kind of natural yogurt, if you like. That's what the kind of notes in this one really remind me of. The fruitiness in this one is coming out towards the front of your palate, and it almost is just like, as I say, it's got a little bit of that almost apricot-y kind of flavour to it, but the further into the aftertaste you go, there could be just a little touch of a slightly reddish fruit ester, you know, like a kind of candied strawberry, or just something nice and smooth like that. But yeah, overall, this is a lovely, lovely sake, and again, it's different from the other ones that I've reviewed. I do find this one is a little bit drier than some of the other ones that I've reviewed, and you can also feel that it's a little heavier in the alcohol as well. You do get a little bit of warmth down your chest from this one, which isn't something I have experienced with sake before now that I think about it. But yeah, overall, a lovely, lovely sake, this one. If I compare the mouthfeel of this one to others, yeah, this one to me is a little bit more oily. It does feel quite full, this one. It didn't say on the back of the bottle what it says 60%. I think it's saying 60%, so 60% grain. That would make sense then, because what they do with the grains in these is they mill them down. They take the bran off the outside. So this one, I guess you could say, it's probably a Seishu Ginjo. And the ginjo means that they've milled the rice grain down to 60% of its original size. So the ginjos do tend to be a little bit heavier in their mouthfeel and thicker in their mouthfeel than the dai ginjos do. The dai ginjo is when they mill the rice grain down to around 50%. Those are the more expensive sakes, and they are lighter in the mouthfeel and slightly sweeter and things like this. But yeah, this one strikes me as being a little bit more oily and thicker in its mouthfeel, and that makes sense if it's a 60% grain size that's in this one. But yeah, really nice sake, this one, and it's been cool to review my first one for you from Niigata Prefecture. So I really hope that you guys have enjoyed my take on this, and I do hope that you are enjoying these sake reviews that I'm doing for you. I find them very, very interesting, and it is cool to kind of share something that's not as well known with the outside world. When I eventually do move to Japan, because I will live here at some point, what I'll probably try and do is do at least one Nihonshu review a week, because I absolutely love these things. You know, they are, to me, they're pretty much just as good, if not better, than the craft beers, actually. I absolutely love my my Japanese sake. So, so yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. A really nice sake that's got a whole host of different flavours to it, and as I say, the Seishu was one that I hadn't encountered before, but I guess you could say this one is a bit of a Seishu Ginjo if you want to be kind of pernickety about it. But yeah, lovely sake, this one, and as I say, very cool to review my first sake from Niigata Prefecture, which is of course famous for these. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers and sakes and stuff are from Hakkaisan Shuzo. This one was the Echigo de sourou, which is a seasonal sake from October to March, I believe. Literally a clear sake, the kind of opposite of Nigori sakes. But I really enjoyed this one, and I thank you once again for your support on the channel. I do hope that you're enjoying these sake reviews. So until the next time, slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Slanja, school, kampai.